Alrighty, hello everybody out there on YouTube. It is I, the Marx Engineer, and today I'm going to be talking about the one-offs in my collection. And what does one-off exactly mean? Well, these are basically the locomotives I've only got one of, as in one each. I don't have any multiples of these ones, as the last 4 videos have been about the paired engines that I've got. However, these ones are standalones, especially this one right here, as this engine right here is the first and only non-steam engine type locomotive on my railway, or layout, I guess. And to be honest, I like it because I partially built this myself, and it is technically a Marx engine, and I say that in air quotes. As of course the vague shape of this looks fairly familiar. That's because it should be familiar. In some of my other earlier videos before they were removed, there used to be a white Marx aluminum coach in the, basically the background of most of my videos. And for the longest period of time, I just kind of had it like that. I had gotten it at the train show I went to quite a while ago, and I really just never did anything with it. I kind of just had it sit there, and I would occasionally use it. But eventually, I found this chassis. Now this is a K-line chassis that I found online for about $2, and someone else had bought it out, but I knew the person who did, and he basically hated it because he thought it would have sound, and he just didn't really want it because of that, and he wasn't going to spend over $200 on some weird sound system to get installed on it. So I offered him a few dollars, and boom, it's now mine. So yeah. I had this chassis for quite a long time, and I just didn't really know what to do with it because it was a diesel chassis, and I don't really like diesel engines. I find them quite boring and unimaginative and lifeless as compared to electric or steam-driven locomotives. In fact, for the longest time, I actually just used it as a powered coach for my non-powered British-type locomotives, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you know about. So, this is the coach shell. It's made out of cardboard. And this is basically made to slip on and off of the chassis pretty easily. So yeah, that's what it is. Moving on. So after a little while of deliberating in my head what I want this engine to look like, I eventually took the coach and I basically gutted it, and then I gave it a brand new rooftop piece, completely custom made, and it is held in by some nuts and bolts. And I gave it these little, I guess, these are pantographs right here. They're custom made. They're not exactly the best, but hey, I'm not going to spend $30 on a moving pantograph, and sure as heck not $40 on one of those lame reproduction ones. So anyway, I gave it these little, I want to say air compressors, because I think that's what they are. They're little air compressor pieces to mimic the idea of that whenever this thing's stationary, you can just go and then touch the overhead catenary system. And of course, this engine is vaguely modeled after the DD1s, if anyone knows what those are, with their giant jackshaft drive units. And it's also got a GG1 inspired paint scheme. And of course I call this the Marx 888 because I just happened to get it on the 8th month of the 8th day, and the last 8 I just added for fun because I wanted it to be a 3-numbered engine, not just a 2-numbered one, because who's ever heard of a 2-numbered Marx engine, am I right? So anyway, this engine actually did used to work, and the way that you can tell the front from the back on this engine is that the front actually has hollowed out windows. They aren't covered by this plate. So basically, this is the front, that's the back. Or an easier way to remember it, pantograph up for front, pantograph down for back. Whereas technically it should be moving in that direction with that on, but to be honest, I really don't care if it's like that. And it does have a light. However, the little nut that was holding this, or the bolt, I don't know, it's the part that screws on up, it basically, when this thing moves, it rattled a lot. And eventually it just kind of slinked its way down, and I didn't even realize it. And when I tried turning it on again, it basically buzzed and then shorted itself out, and then it just wouldn't move. And I basically realized I burned out part of the circuitry in there because that stupid piece of, that stupid thing just went down, touched it, and shorted it out because it's metal. So now I'm going to get one of my friends, as of this video, to put a diode in it, so that way it can move in only one direction, aka that way. So that way it'll be able to pull trains again. So yeah, it's the only real custom kit bash engine I have when it comes to Marx. Besides that one 500 that was, or not 500, but the 700 that's got the cab forward look to it. So yeah. Anyway, on to the next engine. And now onto the Marx 898 or 897, depending on which one you have. I have the clockwork variant, and it has a custom funnel put onto it, machined from brass. And I also gave it a custom paint job. Originally this was painted green at one point, and then another point it was painted blue for a very well-known series on my channel, which is no longer up on my channel, but I assume it's out there somewhere. And of course I gave it some nice lining, and this engine was actually bought for me by my dear friend Taylor Kennedy, so thank you for that. And of course I gave this engine a custom number of 896. As to why, I have no idea. Also, I gave it a jewel. However, when I was spray painting this, I spray painted a clear coat on it, and I had put the jewel on and I had forgotten to take it off. So it ended up coating it, but it gave it this kind of frosted look. So as opposed to shining, it looks like it's glowing in some certain, if you look at it from a certain angle, it looks like that, and I think that's pretty cool. So anyway, it's got a standard Marx wind-up motor with the bell and everything. And I actually did get the correct tender for this model. This one was the all-black model, but when I found out it had the stamped sheet metal wheels as opposed to the regular wind-up wheels with the razor gear motor, I found this tender for it, which is a New York Central tender, which actually came with the other 555 I was talking about in one of my other videos. It's that one right there. This was the tender that came with it. So I eventually gave it this tender. And of course it's pretty good. I'd have to say it's one of the best tenders I've ever seen in my Marx collection. And of course the biggest engine in my Marx collection, the 994. To be honest, I really want to have a separate video dedicated to this engine, but just for now I'm going to give a very brief synopsis on it. Essentially, there was another competitor for Marx called Unique Lines in the early 50s, I imagine. I don't exactly know the correct date, but anyways, it was called Unique Lines. They made two massive tin plate stamped sheet metal O-gauge engines, and they were competing with Marx for availability. However, the biggest engine at that time was actually these guys. So Marx basically was like, you know what, we aren't going to let them beat us at our own game. So they made this thing and promptly made Unique Lines kind of go out of fashion. So yeah.